Good evening. Welcome to our Middle-earth sleep story series. Tonight's story is the Veilwood Trials, which is the second part of the Elven Sanctuaries. If you missed the previous stories, I encourage you to check them out. Let's begin. The forest grew darker as the group pressed deeper, the towering trees forming a dense canopy that blocked out the sun's light, leaving the air thick and cool. The faint golden glow that had guided them from Erindor was now just a memory, replaced by an eerie luminescence that seemed to emanate from the forest itself. Orlen's boots crunched softly against the carpet of fallen leaves, their dampness releasing a faint, earthy scent with every step. The silence around them was profound, broken only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures and the steady tap of Adric's staff. Cyrana led the way, her blade drawn and gleaming faintly in the low light, its presence a silent reassurance to the group. Behind her, Orlen tightened his cloak against the sudden chill, his gaze shifting nervously between the trees, where shadows seemed to move just beyond his vision. "This forest feels alive," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Cyrana didn't turn, but her voice carried back to him, steady and calm. "It is. The elves call this place the Veilwood, a living barrier between their sanctuaries and the outside world. It watches all who pass." The path ahead narrowed, twisting between ancient roots that jutted from the ground like gnarled fingers. The trees themselves seemed to lean inward, their twisted trunks and sprawling branches forming natural arches that loomed overhead. Adric paused to study the intricate patterns in the bark of one tree, his hand brushing against its surface. "There's magic here," he murmured. "Not just the work of the elves, something older, deeper. It's as if the forest remembers everything that's ever happened within its bounds." Calen, trailing behind, shuddered visibly, his pale face a stark contrast to the shadows around him. "I wish it didn't feel like it's remembering us," he muttered, his voice tight. As they moved further into the Veilwood, the air grew heavier, carrying with it a faint metallic tang that made Orlen's chest tighten. The path became harder to follow, overgrown with thorny brambles and moss-covered stones that seemed to shift beneath their feet. Cyrana slowed, her hand raised in a silent signal for the group to halt. "Something's ahead," she said softly, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the dense shadows. Orlen strained his ears, but heard nothing beyond the rhythmic pounding of his own heart. Adric's staff glowed faintly as he stepped closer, his expression serious. "What do you sense?" he asked. Cyrana pointed toward a cluster of trees, their thick trunks entwined with vines that shimmered faintly in the dim light. "There," she said. "The path bends, but the forest tightens around it. It could be a natural bottleneck, or something waiting." The group crept forward cautiously, their movements slow and deliberate. As they neared the bend, the faint glow of the vines grew stronger, casting an ethereal light that illuminated the path. Orlen felt the warmth of the ring in his pocket increase, its steady pulse quickening slightly, as though responding to the forest itself. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, glancing at Adric. The older man nodded, his grip on his staff tightening. "The forest knows we're here," he said simply, "and it's deciding whether to let us pass." As they rounded the bend, the path opened into a small clearing, its center dominated by a massive stone obelisk covered in glowing runes. The runes pulsed gently, their light shifting between silver and gold, casting intricate patterns onto the surrounding trees. Cyrana approached cautiously, her blade held low but ready, while the rest of the group fanned out behind her. "This is elven work," she said, her voice filled with quiet awe. a marker, or perhaps a warning. Adric moved closer to the obelisk, his eyes scanning the runes with fascination. These symbols are ancient even by Elven standards, he said. They speak of protection, but also trials. Before he could elaborate, the air in the clearing shifted, growing colder. The light of the runes intensified, and a faint hum filled the space, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Orlen stepped back instinctively, his hand gripping the ring in his pocket as the hum grew louder. From the shadows beyond the clearing, a figure began to emerge, its form tall and cloaked in flowing robes that shimmered with an otherworldly light. The figure stopped just short of the obelisk, its face obscured by a deep hood, though its presence radiated both power and stillness. "You seek the labyrinth," the figure said, its voice melodic yet commanding, echoing faintly as though coming from a great distance. Cyrana stepped forward, her expression calm but guarded. "We do," she said. "We follow the path of the relics and seek the truth they guard." The figure tilted its head slightly, as though considering her words. "The Veilwood is a threshold," it said. "To pass through, you must prove yourselves worthy, not in strength, but in purpose." The figure raised a hand, and the light of the obelisk flared, casting the clearing into stark relief. Around them, the shadows deepened, their forms twisting and writhing as though alive. "Step forward," the figure commanded. "Let your intent be known, and the forest will decide your fate." Cyrana glanced back at the group, her gaze steady but expectant. One by one, they moved toward the obelisk, its pulsing light growing warmer as they approached. Orlen felt the ring's warmth intensify, its pulse syncing with the rhythm of the runes, and he took a deep breath as he stepped into the glow. The forest seemed to close in around him, the shadows pressing against the edges of the clearing, and he knew that whatever came next, there was no turning back. The clearing fell silent as the light of the obelisk surged, illuminating the twisted branches of the Veilwood and casting sharp shadows that seemed to writhe like living things. Orlen stood frozen, the warmth of the ring in his pocket intensifying as it pulsed in rhythm with the obelisk's glow. The cloaked figure raised its hand again, the motion deliberate and unhurried as though time bent to its will. "Your intent has been heard," it said, its melodic voice weaving through the air like a distant echo. "But words alone are not enough. The Veilwood does not let its secrets be taken lightly." Before anyone could react, the shadows at the edge of the clearing began to move, coalescing into shapes that grew sharper and more defined with every passing moment. Orlen's breath caught as the forms solidified into creatures unlike any he had seen, beasts of dark mist, their bodies shifting constantly, yet their eyes glowed with an unnatural, piercing light. Cyrana stepped forward, her blade gleaming faintly as she held it low but ready. "What are they?" she demanded, her tone steady but edged with tension. The figure tilted its head, its hooded gaze fixed on the advancing creatures. "The Veilwood's guardians," it said. "They are drawn to doubt, to fear, to the wavering heart. Prove yourselves, and they will let you pass. Falter, and they will consume you." Its words hung in the air like a command, and the group instinctively tightened their formation, with Cyrana at the forefront, Adric just behind, his staff glowing faintly, and Calen hanging back, his face pale but resolute. Orlen swallowed hard, his hand brushing against the ring in his pocket as the creatures advanced, their movements fluid and predatory. The first of the beasts lunged without warning, its form shifting mid-leap, and Cyrana met it with a swift, precise strike of her blade. The creature let out a piercing screech as it dissolved into wisps of shadow, but two more immediately took its place, their glowing eyes fixed on her with an almost sentient malice. Adric thrust his staff forward, a burst of light erupting from its tip and driving the creatures back, their forms unraveling slightly under its glow. "They're testing us," he said, his voice tight. "They're not mindless. They're watching how we respond." Orlen hesitated, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of the scene. The ring's pulse had grown stronger, its warmth spreading through him like a second heartbeat, and he felt an inexplicable pull toward the obelisk at the center of the clearing. "Hold them off," Cyrana called, her blade flashing as she struck down another creature. "Orlen, do you feel it?" she added, her gaze briefly flicking to him. He nodded, though the words stuck in his throat. The obelisk's light had grown brighter, its runes shifting and pulsing in time with the ring, and he felt a strange connection between the two, as though the relic was calling him to act. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward the obelisk, the air around it growing warmer as he approached. The creatures seemed to sense his movement, their glowing eyes snapping toward him, but Cyrana and Adric held the line, their combined efforts keeping the beasts at bay. Orlen reached out hesitantly, his hand hovering above the surface of the obelisk. The runes flared in response, their light spreading outward in a wave that passed through the clearing like a ripple across still water. The creatures froze, their forms flickering uncertainly, and the cloaked figure lowered its hand. "The relic knows its purpose," it said, its voice softer now, almost contemplative. "But the path remains yours to choose." Orlen's hand trembled as he placed it on the obelisk, the stone's surface smooth and impossibly warm. The ring in his pocket seemed to merge with the energy of the obelisk, and for a brief moment his vision filled with light. The clearing vanished, replaced by a vivid scene that unfolded around him like a dream. He stood in the center of a vast circular chamber, its walls carved with the same glowing runes as the obelisk. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal upon which rested a second relic, a stone tablet etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and shimmer as he watched. The chamber felt alive, its air humming with an energy that resonated deep within him. "The labyrinth of echoes," a voice said, though it came not from the cloaked figure but from the air itself. "Its gates lie ahead, but the relic must guide you. Without it, the path will close, and the truths you seek will remain hidden." The vision faded as suddenly as it had appeared, and Orlen found himself back in the clearing, the obelisk's glow dimming as the creatures around them dissolved into harmless mist. Cyrana was at his side in an instant, her expression sharp but concerned. "What happened?" she asked. Orlen opened his mouth to speak but hesitated, his mind still reeling from the vision. "I saw a chamber," he said at last. "And a relic, another relic. It's tied to the labyrinth somehow." Adric frowned, his staff dimming as the tension in the clearing eased. "Then we have our next step," he said. "The labyrinth lies ahead, but it seems we need more than just ourselves to face it." The cloaked figure inclined its head, its voice once again carrying that faint, melodic echo. "The forest has granted you passage," it said. "Beyond this clearing, the path will lead you to the labyrinth's gates. What lies within is for you to discover, but beware. The labyrinth does not suffer the unworthy lightly." With that, the figure stepped back, its form dissolving into light that swirled upward and disappeared into the canopy above. The obelisk's light faded completely, leaving the clearing bathed in the dim, shifting glow of the Veilwood. As the group gathered their bearings, Orlen felt the weight of the ring in his pocket once more, its pulse steady but insistent. The path ahead felt heavier now, the air charged with the knowledge that what awaited them would be unlike anything they had faced before. "Let's keep moving," Cyrana said, her voice firm but quiet. "The labyrinth is close. I can feel it." Together they stepped back onto the winding path, the trees closing in around them once more as the Veilwood's shadows watched their every move. The path wound deeper into the Veilwood, the trees growing closer and more twisted with each step, their branches intertwining overhead to form a canopy so dense that only faint tendrils of light filtered through. The air was thick and cool, carrying a faint metallic tang that prickled at Orlen's senses. He walked close behind Cyrana, her steady movements reassuring even as the atmosphere around them grew heavier. Adric followed just behind, his staff glowing faintly, while Calen trailed at the rear, his posture tense and his eyes darting to every shadow that shifted at the edges of the path. The Veilwood seemed alive in a way that was both enchanting and unnerving, its silence broken only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures and the low groan of the ancient trees. "It feels like the forest is watching us," Orlen said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Cyrana glanced back at him, her expression calm but focused. "It is," she replied. "But we've been granted passage, at least for now." The group pressed on, the path narrowing as it led them toward a clearing that seemed to materialize out of the dense woods. In the center of the clearing stood an archway of black stone, its surface etched with glowing runes that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Beyond the archway, a shimmering veil of mist obscured whatever lay on the other side, its silver tendrils shifting and swirling as though alive. Orlen felt the warmth of the ring in his pocket intensify, its pulse aligning with the rhythm of the runes. "The labyrinth," Adric said, his voice reverent. "We've reached its gates." Cyrana stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on the hilt of her blade as she studied the archway. "This is it," she said. "The Veilwood's final trial. Whatever lies beyond this gate is what we've been preparing for." As the group approached, the runes on the archway flared brightly, casting the clearing in a pale, silvery light. The mist beyond the gate swirled faster, its movements almost impatient, and the air around them grew colder. Orlen's chest tightened as he stepped closer, the weight of the ring in his pocket now almost unbearable. "Do we all enter together?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The answer came not from Cyrana or Adric, but from the forest itself. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. The mist beyond the archway shifted, revealing faint shapes that moved within its depths, shadows of twisting corridors and towering walls. "The labyrinth accepts only those who carry purpose," a voice said, its source impossible to pinpoint. It was melodic yet commanding, echoing with a weight that seemed to press against Orlen's very soul. "Each of you must walk your own path. The truths you seek will not be shared, for they are yours alone to uncover." Cyrana's jaw tightened, but she nodded, stepping toward the gate with a resoluteness that Orlen envied. "Then we face it," she said. "Whatever it takes." One by one, the group moved toward the archway, each hesitating for a moment before stepping through the shimmering mist. Orlen watched as Cyrana vanished first, her form swallowed by the silvery haze, followed by Adric and then Calen, who cast one last glance over his shoulder before disappearing into the labyrinth. Orlen was alone now, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on him. The ring in his pocket pulsed steadily, its warmth both comforting and insistent, and he took a deep breath before stepping forward. The mist enveloped him instantly, cool and dense, and for a brief moment he felt as though he were floating in an endless void. Then the sensation shifted, and the world solidified around him. He stood in a narrow corridor of black stone, its walls smooth and cold, illuminated by a faint blue glow that seemed to emanate from the very air. The silence was absolute, broken only by the soft echo of his footsteps as he took a cautious step forward. The corridor stretched endlessly ahead, twisting and turning in ways that defied logic, and Orlen felt a deep unease settle over him. "What is this place?" he murmured, though no one was there to answer. As he moved deeper into the labyrinth, the air grew heavier, and the blue glow began to shift, flickering like distant firelight. Shadows danced along the walls, their shapes fluid and indistinct, but Orlen couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching him. The ring in his pocket grew warmer, its pulse quickening as though urging him forward. He rounded a corner and found himself in a circular chamber, its floor inlaid with intricate patterns that glowed faintly. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a shard of black stone, its surface etched with the same runes that marked the archway. Orlen approached cautiously, his hand hovering over the shard. The air around it seemed to hum with power, and he hesitated, his mind racing with doubts. "You doubt yourself," a voice said, and Orlen spun around, his heart pounding. The chamber was empty, but the voice persisted, soft yet piercing. "The path you walk is not one of certainty, but of choice. Do you have the strength to carry what lies ahead?" Orlen's breath caught as the shadows on the walls began to shift, forming shapes that mirrored his own, distorted and fractured but unmistakably him. They moved toward him, their forms flickering like dying flames, and he stumbled back, his hand brushing against the shard. The instant he touched it, the world around him exploded into light. Visions flashed before his eyes, scenes of the labyrinth twisting and reshaping itself, of his companions facing trials of their own, and of a massive structure at the heart of the maze, its walls carved with runes that glowed like stars. The shard in his hand pulsed with energy, and he felt its power flow through him, merging with the warmth of the ring. "The labyrinth has accepted you," the voice said, though it was softer now, almost a whisper. "But the path is far from over." When the light faded, Orlen found himself back in the corridor, the shard still clutched in his hand. The air was calmer now, the oppressive weight of the labyrinth easing slightly, and he took a shaky breath before moving forward. The corridor ahead glowed faintly, and he knew it would lead him closer